Unbreakable. Unbreakable. Hello everyone, welcome back to Foster the Meeple, a channel all about
board games
and
board gamey things.
Exactly. We're here today to do another pumped up Kickstarter. And today's pumped up Kickstarter preview is on Mythic Mischief Volume 2 from IV Studios, who so kindly sponsored this video.
High stakes hijinks.
High stakes hijinks, exactly. Now, yes, this is Volume 2. We are only going to be talking about Volume 2 today, but we do, of course, have Volume 1 and have played both. So we can chit-chat a little bit about what that means. Now, as per usual, we are going to jump into a brief overview of the game, and then we are going to come back, have a little discussion. So let's get into the overview. Nestled within the enchanting grounds of Mythic Manor lies a mesmerizing hedge maze. Outside of select class visits, access to the hedge garden is strictly off limits to the students of Mythic Manor. This policy is diligently enforced by the mysterious groundskeeper. This led to a new competition among students. Who can hide in the hedge maze without getting caught? The groundskeeper makes daily rounds in the school hedge maze, but a copy of their task list has fallen into the students' possession. They know exactly where the groundskeeper is headed and in what order. The only thing they can change is the path the groundskeeper will take to get there. It's the perfect chance for the students of Mythic Manor to once again prove who is best in class. Let the games begin. In Mythic Mischief, you play a faction of Mythic Manor students competing to get as many of the other students caught by the groundskeeper as you can without getting caught yourself. Each faction has its own unique set of abilities. You can move around the hedge maze board, move the other factions into a path of the groundskeeper, and even alter the course of the groundskeeper by moving hedges. Players are able to upgrade their faction's abilities throughout the game by collecting powerful tomes from around the hedge maze. The winner is the first team to score 10 mischief points, or the team with the most mischief points when the groundskeeper finishes all of their work after dark. And we are back. Jeffrey, the game is up here.
Magic.
That was a little Mythic Mischief that happened.
That was some hijinks.
There's a little bit of hijinks. So, like I said, we are going to be talking primarily about Volume 2, although it is a little bit difficult to talk about Mythic Mischief Volume 2 without talking about Volume 1, because the game is very, very similar with the exception of a couple of things. So Jeff, maybe give the people a little overview of what Mythic Mischief is and a little bit about Volume 2.
Mythic Mischief is a chess-like game where up to 2 to 4 players are basically trying to control the board and cause hijinks in so far that their opponents get caught by, in Volume 2, the groundskeeper. So you're going to be doing this by basically taking a bunch of different actions. You have action dice that can be increased or decreased depending on how you use them, and they basically allow you to do a bunch of different actions. Move, distract, move hedges in Volume 2, secret powers and that sort of thing, because in this game everyone's playing a asymmetrical faction. But the basic premise is move around this map, manipulate the board, and trick the groundskeeper so that your opponents get caught.
And
it's kind of like this chess-like hide-and-seek-esque type game. Somewhat abstract, but it is kind of thematic insofar that other abstract games aren't.
Right.
If that makes any sense.
Yes. And so basically, one person will take a turn, and then the groundskeeper is going to take a turn. The groundskeeper is always trying to get to a specific location, which you can see on the board. So he is very systematically going to move to location 1 first, then to location 2, and then to location 3. And he's always going to take the path of least resistance. So that's how you can kind of outsmart your opponent in a little way, like maybe you're going to move them into the line of sight of the groundskeeper, so he's going to catch them. And essentially the game ends in one of two ways. Either you get 10 points every time you get one of your opponents caught, there's a point, or you go through 2 full phases. Before dark, where he's going to 3 locations, after dark, where he will go to another 3. If that is how the game ends, and it's whoever has the most points wins.
Correct. Basically, this game's played over those 2 phases that Jamie mentioned, and there's a bunch of these different cards that can come out before dark, after dark, that will show you where tomes are placed out on the board, because there's this other little mechanic or mechanism where you're collecting tomes, and those tomes can be put into dice slots that allow you to basically beef up your stats, because at the end of every turn, on your turn, you're going to move all your dice that you've used to the left. So as you're slotting in tomes, your dice don't have to move as far down to the left, limiting the amount of actions you can take for that section, basically.
And you get to boost your dice. So every round, at the end of every turn, you are really kind of working your way to really boosting up all of your stats so that you can do more. Because at the very beginning, you're not going to have a lot that you can do because you're weak. But as the game goes on, you get smarter. You start learning how to outwit, how to outsmart, how to outwolf, outfairy.
Yeah, what's somewhat interesting, again, with the asymmetrical factions is there are basic structures of play. There's move, there's, as mentioned, distract, there's manipulate, hedges, because again, like the groundskeeper in Volume 2 is going to move around the board, but if you put hedges in his way, it's going to change the way he moves around the map. But what's interesting is all factions have like somewhat different ways that they do those things.
Yes.
You know, there's, for example, the gnomes in Volume 2 have a normal move function, but they also can burrow. And that means they can basically go underground and then pop up at a different spot on the board. And all of these factions have different ways that they play the game. The mechanisms in the game are the exact same as Volume 1. This one's just changed the theme up a little bit. So Volume 1 was a library with a tomes keeper and the manipulation of bookshelves. In Volume 2, it's a groundskeeper with hedges, and you are in a
garden type area.
And again, it's before dark, after dark. In the library, it was before lunch, after lunch.
And every character has a special ability that also gets unlocked during the after dark phase. So there's one more thing that you're able to do. So the 4 factions that come in Volume 2, we've got fairies, gnomes, werewolves, and gargoyles. Volume 1 has monsters, zombies, vampires, and wizards. So I think the cool thing is, as well, you can actually mix and match. There's no reason why a vampire couldn't participate in the shenanigans that go on outside, and why a fairy couldn't be inside. You can mix and match, which is really great. It's really a very heavily strategic game. Simple mechanically, but you have to think multiple steps ahead. Because as I mentioned before, you take a turn, you move the groundskeeper, then your opponent is going to take a turn. So you almost have to anticipate what your opponent is going to do and where you leave your people.
2
because
turns in advance.
Like the gnome, as an example, can shift somebody and completely move them into a different spot. The fairies can move somebody in a diagonal, and they can put a little fairy butt on them and force them to move somewhere. So it's like, okay, I'm going to do this, which I know is going to score me at least 1 point, but then I need to look at what my opponent's doing and how I'm setting myself up for their turn. The groundskeeper can only move a certain amount of spaces every turn. So you can kind of anticipate that a little bit, just a little bit though, because the board is ever changing. The board is ever changing. And one thing we have not mentioned yet is a small little additional piece to this is there's clutter that kind of is out on the board, and the theme of that clutter is different between Volume 1 and Volume 2, but it functions the same way. Yeah. It's basically most spaces take 1 movement action in order to move into them. Clutter spaces take 2, including that for the groundskeeper. Yeah. So you have to take those spaces into consideration. And again, like, what does your opponent have available to them? Because
Gnomes, for example, when it's after dark, can actually change the location of where the groundskeeper is headed to. As Jamie mentioned, you almost have to plan 2 turns in advance, and also understand that the board will change every single time a turn happens.
Yes.
It's very, very thinky. But if you like chess-like abstract games, this would be one to certainly take a look at.
You can play this game very defensively, or you can play it very aggressively, and it's going to change how the game plays, how it scores, all of that good stuff. It plays relatively quickly because there is a timer mechanism essentially in the game, which is the 2 different phases. I do also want to say, if you are somebody who is prone to analysis paralysis, a little AP, this one might melt your brain a little bit. It is very deceiving in terms of how simple it is, but the amount of times that we have played both of these games where I've just been sitting there like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do.
It's really hard to determine an optimized turn because the things change so much. And again, given that everyone has a bit of like boost abilities, like maybe I'm very interested in making sure I can manipulate Jamie's characters a bunch on my turn and not moving my own. Like you have to consider all of that, and you can action any 3. So you each have, in a 2-player game, you each have 3 characters out, and you can action any of them in any order you want. So you not only do you have to figure out what the other person's doing, you have to understand also what characters they might be interested in moving. There's a lot to it. It's a lot of layers of strategy here. But also, I think would be super enjoyable just for someone that wants to plop it on the table and play with their kids or whatever. You don't have to get super deep into strategy and optimization of turns if you didn't want to.
This game is for people who would really enjoy abstract strategy games, people who enjoy a theme that is really like fun, bright, colorful, a little bit spooky. Both of the volumes, volume 1 and volume 2, like we said, have a different theme, but they are all still within the like kind of like monster school. Monster High is kind of, think of it that way. It's not going to be for you if you really don't like putting yourself into analysis paralysis situations, if you don't like games that have heavy strategy, if you don't like games that have heavy interaction, because that is this game.
Meanness.
This game is mean because you need to defeat the other person in order to score points. So if you're not into meanness, it might not be for you.
We've only played Mythic Mischief, just as a disclaimer, at 2-player. You can play it 1 to 4. We've only played it at 2.
Yes. Anyways, if you're interested in Mythic Mischief Volume 2, all of the information is going to be down below. Feel free to check out the campaign, follow it along. We are also going to have a channel in our Discord dedicated to Mythic Mischief. So please feel free to jump in there and we can chat about the game.
Let us know who your favorite faction is.
Yes, I would be very, very curious because as somebody who enjoys spooky characters, it is difficult for me to pick which one.
I really like the gnomes.
Yeah,
in volume 2.
I like, the fairies, the vampires. I like vampires. I like werewolves. I like them all. Anyways, if you're interested in buying board games, not this one, Kickstarter, but other board games, where should you go?
Boardroom Game Cafe.
It's a friendly local gaming store. Find yours today. Do you like snacks?
I do.
Perfect. Where do people find snacks?
MunchPak.
Exactly. Thank you so much for watching. If you like what you see,
please subscribe.
We hope to see you again soon. And now we say goodbye. Goodbye.
Later days. Friedman fries.
I knew I wrote it down wrong and I was like, he's going to make fun of me for doing that. But.
Oh, Friedman fries.
Look at this guy. Look at my tooth. Ready?
I see it.
That's why I have a lisp. Comes over there.
I don't think you have a lisp.
I don't? Well, that's good.
I don't think I've ever really noticed it.
Good. Then I don't. I did not brush my hair today.
Is he upside down?
And it shows. Go back and just say it again.